to my 2024 offseason recap for the Vikings. So this was a big offseason. We had a lot of cap space available, but also a lot of players departing. So a good chunk of that cap space went into franchise tagging our quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who has regressed a bit. It looks like he's down to a 74 overall, so kind of a tough break there. But he's going to be playing one more year at least in Minnesota. Obviously, he took us to the Super Bowl. I couldn't let him go, but costly at like $44 million. We also extended Ezra Cleveland. He got a nice, I think, 3-year deal. And Daniil Hunter, of course, had a big extension with, he's just had a really good season. I believe led the league in sacks, or tied for lead in sacks with 21. And finally, TJ Hawkinson. Oh, and how could I forget? JJ got his. JJ is getting all of the money. And TJ Hawkinson will be hanging around as well for a few years. So, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg for players who are leaving. So we're able to extend the big ones, but on the edge, Marcus Davenport and DJ Wanham, who both got pretty significant snaps, are both out. Our wide receiver 2 from last year, KJ Osborne, is out. He goes to Green Bay. Davenport's in Baltimore now, I believe. And then Jordan Hicks, who only like a 74 overall last year, but had a really nice season statistically. He's out. So he's actually going to be joining our former defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, takes him with him to Los Angeles, where Sean McVay retired. So Flores, also a key loss for us, which is going to force us to kind of imagine this defense under new coaching. After Flores, of course, led us to having the best defense in the league alongside Hicks. Now they're both in Los Angeles. Some other losses. Oh, of course, our second string cornerback, Joejuan Williams, had quite a few pass breakups. And I believe an interception in garbage time against the Lions playoff game. He's gone. Kene Nwangwu, who's pretty much just a kick returner, gone. Greg Joseph, gone. Brandon Powell, out. And James Lynch, Jonathan Bullard, and some of that depth at defensive tackle head out. So, a lot of losses. Few that were able to save. So to replace them, the big prize of free agency was Cameron Jordan. We give him 1 year, $12 million. It's a lot of money for a 35-year-old pass rusher, but he is going to be part of this team in a big way. And actually, I don't really want him wearing 92. He usually wears 94. Hang on. See if we can change that quick. Would be kind of poetic to give him Davenport's old number though. Yeah. We'll stick with 94, what he wore in New Orleans. So Cam Jordan, probably not going to be a guy you want in there all the time. At his age, stamina is going to be a concern, but he'll be kind of a situational pass rusher. You know, if you get a big third down, I want to be bringing him in and just keeping him really fresh and letting Patrick Jones kind of do the work as our primary. Also, you can see that these guys are now in their positions where they'd be for a 4-3 defense rather than their 3-4 positions like we had last year. That is because our latest defensive coordinator is a guy we got who runs 4-3, and he's got some Vikings connections because he's actually sort of a Zimmer grandchild. Eagles defensive line coach Tracy Rocker, who of course learned under Jonathan Gannon in Philly for 3 years, and he had an extensive college career as a defensive line coach before that. Obviously, really great Eagles defensive lines. So we're gonna be trying to replicate that here. Maybe don't quite have the talent, but hope he can still get it done. Um, you can see our defensive tackles are already way boosted up because of the coaching. Harrison Phillips, 87 overall, with the temporary boost from our new coach. So he's looking good. Dean Lowry up to 76. Jacqueline Roy and Isesi Otomuo over 70 now as well. So we'll hope he can continue the success that Brian Flores had. And helping out that cause is also William Jackson, who is going to replace Joan Williams as that second cornerback. And he'll be wearing number 5. He's a very good zone corner. Eagles do run a lot of zone, so we're going to be kind of trying to keep that up, and then I think Jackson can kind of help in that regard. Another veteran player, because we went to the Super Bowl last year, so we want guys who can help us win now. We are going all in. We signed Riley Patterson. He's unfortunately injured right now, though, so he can be our kicker perhaps for a couple years. And on the offensive side of the ball, probably the biggest name we got was Josh Reynolds, who's going to be probably our wide receiver 3. And, of course, comes from Detroit. He's got, a little bit of height to him at 6'3", which I like. Addison, I've been kind of frustrated with that lack of ability to go get jump balls and stuff like that. Remember very potently where he was trying to run away from Tremaine Edmonds down the middle of the field, and Edmonds just kind of jumping over him and being able to reach up for the interception. Hopefully now with a taller guy like Reynolds can be able to make some of those throws, but in the Super Bowl the lack of receiver depth was really pronounced. So I wanted to focus on that. Fortunately, he barely makes up for the loss of KJ Osborne. So I don't know if we've necessarily improved, but perhaps we at least haven't regressed in that regard. And then Coleman Shelton we signed, who might actually compete with Ed Ingram for the starting right guard job. You can see he is only 1 overall lower. And, he's a good scheme fit, 29 years old, so not quite as washed up as some of the other guys we got. And that's pretty much it for free agency. Wasn't a huge one, but still a pretty solid haul with those 3 guys. And in the draft now, we started off the draft by trading back in classic Kwesi/Rick fashion, and we went back with Cleveland so they could trade up to select what I assumed would be a safety because they had a gaping hole at strong safety, and the best player available was a safety. So that seemed like a pretty good decision for both of us. We went from 131 to 222, so trading back about 23 spots with Cleveland in exchange for a third-round pick that we got. We did not have a third-round pick in the draft prior to the trade back, so we turned our first and second into 2 seconds and a third. And with that second-round pick, we selected a receiver. Not this guy, not this guy. It was this guy. It was LaMarcus Newhouse, our first pick in the draft. He's a big wide receiver who went to college in the state of Mississippi. Might sound a little familiar to you. 65 overall. Just that's not good. So definitely disappointed with that first pick. So I don't know how much he'll even see the field. But then a few picks later, we of course had a pick in the late second round, and we used that on a linebacker, which was a big position of need. And this one actually pretty decent. We got Ethan Calvert, who is going to be 72 overall here at outside linebacker. Good run stopper, and can hopefully bring a little bit of heft to this defense. Doesn't look like he's too bad of a blitzer either. Decent coverage. Yeah, fairly happy with that selection. And he's not going to be playing middle linebacker because biggest thing is in this Tampa 2 defense. Compare him to Asamoah, who's got 87 speed, and that's obviously going to help Asamoah a lot with in the middle linebacker in a Tampa 2 defense, which we will be running a decent amount. He's got to carry those posts up the middle of the field, and having a freak athlete there like Asamoah should help. So I did not want to put Calvert in that role because he is only 84 speed, I think. Yeah, so he'll be kind of more of a run defending backer. At probably Will or Sam. Obviously, Madden doesn't distinguish Will and Sam; they just go by side of the field. So then we picked in the third round. This was with Cleveland's pick, and we drafted a guard, Rocco Spindler, and I think 70 overall. Obviously, there's a morale boost. He was without the boost, he is 69 overall. You can see there. But certainly not bad for offensive linemen. Obviously, decent offensive linemen are kind of hard to find, and you'd often expect them to be lower overall than other guys kind of at the same point in the draft. So I think getting a 70 overall lineman with that third round pick is certainly not bad value. So kind of three guys that can compete. Obviously, Bradbury and Cleveland have jobs locked up at the other two IOL spots. And of course, a really nice tackle duo with O'Neal and Darrisaw. So yeah, the kind of the theme with this draft was we weren't really looking for starters. You can see that obviously at wide receiver and guard, where we're just mostly focusing on depth, getting positions that we didn't have a lot of depth at. And well, we didn't get too much. We didn't get starters, so. But we did get Ja'Cory Brooks here in the fourth round, 72 overall receiver. I was kind of hoping he could be a kick returner, but unfortunately he didn't quite have the ratings for that. So kind of a steal there. I think he was the second highest overall player drafted in the fourth round. So feel pretty good about that pick. Take a look at him here, number 17, so he'll be wearing KJ Osborne's number, but not necessarily replacing KJ Osborne's role, as he is still probably behind Reynolds and Addison and Jefferson in the depth chart. And then we went linebacker again. We really did need linebackers. It was Asamoah and Pace here and kind of nobody else. So we drafted Rashawn Harding. This was our only player with hidden development in the whole draft, but he's a 63 overall, but good in coverage, it says. So yeah, he'll also probably not compete for a job because I like Ivan Pace, and obviously Calvert has a pretty big edge on him. But maybe he'll develop into something, and maybe next year or the year after that he can, kind of crack that starting linebacker spot if he develops. And then I wanted to take a swing at defensive tackle in the fifth round, so we went with Wayne Howard here, 63 overall, boosted up to 65. Thanks, coaching. So yeah, pretty much depth there, still well behind our other four guys, so I don't think he'll see the field much. Then we got Enrique Jones, halfback, and only 66 overall. There's a lot of good halfbacks out there, so kind of disappointed about a 66. The one thing he does have going for him is he's actually pretty solid at kick return, so he can potentially replace Kane Nwangwu. He could basically just be a clone of Kane for all we care at this point, I think. Kind of similar stats of not a very good halfback, but got potential as a returner. So we also had 2 6th round picks, and first one, or no, excuse me, this was our third 5th round pick, was Landon Tingwell, who can probably be our swing tackle. And at 64 overall, not exactly what you're hoping for, but certainly not awful. So probably better than Vidarian Lowe. A little bit more of a run blocker though, so not necessarily a great scheme fit, unfortunately. Also, Dante Smith could be competing for that spot, who I think was on our practice squad last year. And then our last pick of the draft came in the 7th round. Or 6th round. We went with Kenny Justice here. He can fly, and that's about it at the linebacker spot. So I don't really expect him to see the field too much. And then we did sign a couple significant UDFAs. So at edge, we went with this Hugh Wheeler, another bigger edge rusher, very similar to kind of like what we got with Cam Jordan. But 4-3 ends, you like them a little bigger, or you like them 4-3 edge players, you like a little bigger. But I mean, this guy could potentially play 3-4 end at that size. But speed rusher archetypes, so we'll see how he does in our system. And then, of course, with the injury to Riley Patterson, aforementioned, I just signed a UDFA kicker. James McCourt, probably gone once Patterson is healthy, maybe a practice squad guy. Finally, the last addition I have to mention is another potential returner in Ben Tolliver, who, good slot guy, could see the 91 speed and where's his kick return? 91 kick return. So he could be the guy to go back there, either him or Enrique Jones. Certainly not an ideal draft by any stretch. We had only one player drafted who was above 70 overall, so quite disappointing there. But we didn't have a lot of capital going in. We did not have a 3rd-round pick, and our 1st-round pick was very late. So we weren't expecting too much, and we didn't need too much. We've got a pretty solid roster. We've got a lot of good starters, I think. So linebacker still a little bit of a question, but I think Asamoah, Pace, and Calvert will be the guys. We'll be watching a Caleb Evans versus Andrew Booth battle it out in the preseason. A Caleb Evans, I believe, got a dev trait upgraded. He's star now, and I don't think he was that before. So that's good for him. I guess I don't see it. Maybe he was star dev all along. But in any case, yeah, him and Booth can compete. They were both drafted in that same year. Caleb Evans significantly later, but outplayed Booth in his rookie year, and Booth really has not seen the field at all. Kai Blackman also on the roster, but he was kind of disappointing in his rookie year. Bynum Metellus at safety. Got a lot of defensive tackles. You don't need as many now. It's a 4-3. Patrick Jones going to be kind of our primary edge rusher too, while Jordan will be situational, and of course Hunter's going to see the field as much as we can. O'Neal and Darisaw, great tackle duo. Battle at the right guard position. Solid center and guard in Bradbury and Cleveland. Hawkinson's going to hopefully do better than last year, where he kind of underwhelmed. And then Justin Jefferson going to lead that receiver core. Addison really needs to step it up this year, though, because he's going to be wide receiver too. Still Madison and McBride at halfback. And a regressed Kirk Cousins Well, Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins there as backups. So that's how our roster looks going into the 2024 season. I'm excited to see what becomes of this team, and we'll get that started shortly with week 1, which is going to be against, I don't remember. I looked at this very briefly. Jaguars and then Colts. So a lot of AFC South to start the season before we head to Green Bay. And you have to get some of those divisional games done early. Have a nice bye in the middle of the season. Get to play the Bears coming off of a bye. And then those Lions-Packers games back-to-back, both of them prime time. Kirk Cousins' chance to beat the Packers in prime time on Monday night would be great. And then finish up with some out-of-division games. So that's what the schedule looks like. And we'll see how it turns out shortly.